Babe Mayhem is more than just an online store. It's a destination.
Shine a light on me when I'm scared of the dark.
MetalBabeMayhem.com carries over 150 rock and roll products, including clothing, jewelry, and accessories.
For good and not for greed.
everybody. It's your old play, The Dreamer. Welcome to Hanging with the Dreamer, featuring Mr. Derek Fan Halen. Derek, thank you and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be on the show. And let me just clarify something real quick for you. As far as my last name, I have it as Derek Fan Halen. And there's a reason behind that, but now it's it doesn't matter anymore because I used to change it from my real last name just because I didn't want my job to know what I did on the weekends. That I would travel the world playing in a rock and roll band, so I would disguise that and not have my real last name, so people from my job could find me. But that's no longer an issue. So anyway, so that's just why I have it there as Derek Fan Halen.
Outstanding, Derek Fuller.
That's right. Exactly right.
Awesome. Well, a beautiful day, beautiful morning it has been, and let's get into this head first.
And Will, where are you calling in from?
I'm in Azusa, California.
Oh, okay, awesome. That's like the mecca of Van Halen, because I grew up in a city very close to Azusa in Hacienda Heights.
Hacienda Heights, very close to me.
That's right.
Sure. That's for
now
sure.
I reside in Huntington Beach.
Good old HB. All right. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, it's like the mecca, from Glendora through Monrovia to East Pasadena, where I grew up, is East Pasadena, most predominantly. And
Will, did you say you saw Van Halen in the clubs?
When I was a kid, I snuck into a couple backyard parties.
Oh, cool.
That's long
like
hair.
San Marino, or where were the parties?
Pasadena.
Okay, very cool.
Pasadena.
And what was the experience like as a young boy going into a 20 kegger party with, I don't know, 400 or 500 people and all the cop cars and the helicopters? I'd love to hear your firsthand experience of how that was and what you experienced and hearing that band.
Absolutely remarkable. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Words can't even describe. You know, I for lack of better terms, I was just hitting puberty. So I was in hot heaven.
I could only imagine. I was, I grew up in the same area, and so I'm very familiar with the backyard party and the keggers and the bands and stuff. In fact, I was most times in the band that was playing at some of these backyard parties, but never to the extent of the Van Halen popularity. So I can't even imagine how. I mean, I of course read some of the stories in Greg Runoff's book and how detailed and how they explained those parties, and I was like, wow, I would have loved to have been part of that, to been able to witness that. That would be quite the thrill.
When I entered the scene at a very young age,
why is you have like an older sibling or an older friend that got you into that? Because that's usually what it is. Yeah.
And I had an older buddy. See, what happened was my father died when I was 13.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And I did the typical rebel kid starting off at a way too early age. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I was head deep in a scene I knew nothing about, and I just knew it made me happy.
Oh, that's cool.
Your
poor mom, but yes, I get it.
Oh, my poor mom, God bless her. She passed 2 months before Christmas last year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. And I'm still dealing with that. And that kind of really knocked me backwards a whole lot to where, I just have had to find other revenues of income. And because I did that, I learned how to specialize in something, like specialize in Dreamland Studios And I've been very fortunate, very blessed, and very fortunate that even though I'm not on social media every day, all day, or what have you, that I have been able to meet wonderful people such as yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Great. It's a great. Obviously, it's a great outlet for you, and allows you to do something you really enjoy and talk about things that really are important to you. So that's pretty awesome. And obviously, this band and that era is special. And growing up in it, obviously look at me. I'm fully immersed.
That's just, as I mentioned, words can't quite express the wonders that I experienced coming up in the scene. And if I may add, I was in the 90s, I was playing in a band. I had a band called Soul Machine, and I played, and I still play.
Instrument. Well, did you play guitar?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. And at another time, I definitely love to share my guitars with you. Thank you. The amp guy that I had that worked on my Marshalls, my 100-watt JCM 800, my 50-watt JMP Marshall. Doug Anderson from the Van Halen Museum that was in Pasadena.
Yeah, you mentioned you spent a lot of time there.
And I remember when I also had a 15-watt or 25-watt, a small box Mesa Boogie Mark III.
Yeah. And
Doug Anderson bias, put in some new preamp tubes, put in some new power amp tubes, bias, whole thing for me. And then he broke out a box. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. And then my eyes got big because all of a sudden it dawned on me, that's a power attenuator. And I think, oh, this is going to be rad, I get to start to get the bumps and the chills. And I'm just like, oh, I can't wait. And I turned around and he goes, do you see those cabinets right there? 6 Marshall stacks, full on 12 Marshall 412s, 6 of them. And Mr. Edward Van Halen donated those. Those were his cabinets from the early days.
Wow. Did they have the Toilex removed like we see in the pictures?
No, these were straight up stock, straight up Jimmy Page, Song Remains the Same, Led Zeppelin looking Marshall cabinets.
Okay.
The Tolex being removed and everything, aren't those in the Smithsonian?
Yeah, I think that might be the case. I don't know if they're still there because I went to the Smithsonian and that exhibit was no longer there. I don't know. I don't know what the story is with that and where they reside, but I would have loved to have seen that, of course.
That's phenomenal. I've never had the blessing, the privilege of being there, but I've seen pictures, I've seen video footage. It's just his complete backyard rig. With
the bombshell as well.
With the bombshells, wow, yeah. So the 25-watt small box Mesa Boogie Mark III was plugged into this power attenuator that was frozen at 250 watts.
Wow.
Frozen. That was also Edwards too.
Interesting.
And I was just like, wow. So I plugged in and all I heard was this loud, this It sounded like a ticking time bomb. It was just like, I was like, wow,
That's
knocked
great.
the toggle switch down, went into a little A progression, and just totally, literally, the impact of the six Marshall stacks literally went through my chest, almost knocked me off my chair.
I
And
could only imagine.
I have Mr. Edward Van Halen to thank for that. And I will always, always remember the moments of the backyard parties to meeting Doug Anderson in the Van Halen Museum, which is now moved to Altadena.
Oh, okay. So you can still visit it.
Sure can. Sure
You
can.
do that someday.
I'm going to be making a pilgrimage from Azusa to Altadena some Saturday that I have free, and because I want to go say hi to Doug and just
Altadena's not that far, right?
not that
Is that
far.
Altadena over by Whittier or somewhere?
No. Altadena is right above Pasadena.
Oh, okay.
So right the Sierra Madre's on the opposite side, and yeah,
Gotcha.
I would love to go reminisce with him and see him. I haven't seen him for like about 25 years.
Oh my goodness.
And show him the pictures that I have
Yeah.
from the pictures that I posted on Facebook this morning.
Yes, I saw that.
So I do apologize. It kind of got off the track of
Not
today.
at all. We're just talking. What are you talking about? This is great.
Well, thank you. And I am
Go into those
very.
pictures.
Have you seen them? I posted them on
Yes.
Facebook.
I'm looking at them now, and this is your collection with the signed autographs on the album and the Gazzari's flyer.
These are all from the Pasadena the Van Halen Museum.
I see. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
My mom used to work at San Gabriel Valley Medical Center. The reason why I bring that up, well, there was a practicing physician that she would work under, and that was Dr. Nathan Roth.
Yeah.
So she took me up an elevator when I went to go visit her for lunch one time.
Yeah. What year would have this been?
Oh boy, 80s.
Okay. And that was the height of Van Halen's career.
She took me. We went up this private elevator. She said, "Check this out. Don't stray. Stay with me." I said, "Hey, no problem." The door opened up and it was an empty hallway. She goes, "Follow me." And I see all this caution, construction, all these warning signs saying don't enter, safety hazards, safety risk. She goes, "Follow me." So she goes, "Stay close to the wall right here to your right." So I stay close to the wall. Got about halfway down the entrance to the wing, and she said, "Stop and look straight up." I looked straight up, and I was staring, facing just about maybe 3 inches above my head, a plaque that said, "This children's wing was donated to San Gabriel Valley Medical Center by David Lee Roth, Alex Van Halen, Michael Anthony, and Edward Van Halen."
Wow.
It's like, my hat's shaking. Can I touch it?
Yeah. Is that well known or not well known that they had donated for that wing? I mean, that's pretty incredible, and it's quite an act of philanthropy
It's
in humanity
amazing.
that people don't probably know about. That's interesting.
Well, that just goes to show you that despite the the stories,
Mm-hmm.
despite the myths, despite whatever somebody thinks about Van Halen now or the early days of Van Halen, whether they were there, their form, maybe their thoughts are right, maybe they're not.
Sure, of course. That's probably true with anything.
You know, give or take. When I saw that, the chills just ran through my veins. My hands, both my hands were shaking when I saw this plan. And that was the moment I had an aha moment. And I knew that no matter what path I led in life, that even in some people's eyes, bad guys can do good.
Yeah.
That even you never run out of chances in life to make things right.
I like that.
You know, and with love and respect, you know, my whole life is based around this. My whole life is just floats with memories of playing through 6 Marshall stacks at the Van Halen Museum to discovering, well, hey, maybe if I take my 50-watt Marshall and put the preamp gain on 9 and dime the master, maybe that's the way to go. And then it dawned on me, that's what the king was doing.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, well, one of the things. And
oh yeah, and he had remarkable talent, but that's a whole nother thing.
Well, that's going to be the next thing I bring up is talent. I needed to ask you, and first up, just anybody that is just tuning in to today's premiere of Hangin with Dreamer, featuring Mr. Derek Fuller from Van Halen. I would just like to ask you, sir, what was your first Van Halen experience?
Well, my first Van Halen experience would be I have an older brother who got me into the scene, just as we talked about. You had an older friend. He's 5 years older than me. So he got me into that music. He was all into, just rock and roll, whether it was Deep Purple, Alice Cooper, Black Sabbath, all those. And then he got the first Van Halen probably on 8-track. And I heard it then, and that was the first of hearing it. And I was a guitar player at the time. I was playing, and I guess my heroes for guitar was Joe Perry or Ted Nugent, Ace Frehley, all those guitar players of the 70s. And then hearing it for the first time, and then obviously being taken back by it and just being floored by it and all that, just like so probably millions and millions of other guitar players at the same time. And then, but I think the biggest moment was probably when I went and saw the band live, and that wasn't until 1979 at the Forum in Los Angeles, and getting to be there and as a young man or young boy learning to play guitar and getting to witness that. That was I don't know if it was life-changing, but it was certainly very influential, and just it was just an awesome experience to be able to see that and hear that and experience it. So that would be it.
That's phenomenal. So thank you. So what is the future in your thoughts, in your mind, in your heart? What is the future that you feel tribute bands have in today's musical dichotomy?
Yeah, I think, I've been doing this now for 20 years. I've been in Van Halen for 20 years in some type of form or another. So if you would have asked me when I was in my 30s when I started, would you be doing this in your 50s? I would have said probably not. I don't foresee people wanting to see 50-year-olds portraying 20-year-olds on stage. And what I didn't take into account is our audience is growing older with us. So they don't look at me and say, well, there's an old man trying to portray Eddie Van Halen as a 28-year-old, because they're the same age as I am. So they don't view it that way. So that's why I think we've had the longevity that we've had, is because my audience is growing older with me. But the future of tribute bands is an interesting discussion, because two things are happening. One is our heroes are falling off and dying. So, and that seems to be, obviously happening all the time and very rapidly, where we just lost Jimmy Buffett, and, it will continue to do that. And you'll never have the opportunity to see those acts perform live. So the tribute band fills that void to an extent. Obviously, no tribute band in the world is going to be able to emulate these bands in their prime. This is going to be what I always say is, we are the paint by numbers version of the real band. Like Eddie is the master, Van Halen is the masterpiece, and we are the paint by numbers version. We just kind of fill in the dots the best that we can. And if you're into it and you allow yourself, I always say, squint your eyes and squint your ears, you can be taken back and you'll enjoy it. There's a lot of people who don't get it. But I think as time has gone by, more and more people are gravitating towards it, because they realize that you can really have an enjoyable evening out, an inexpensive way to enjoy some of the music that you grew up on. So I think that it will continue to prolong the tribute scene. The other interesting thing is, and I've said this before, I probably said this about five, maybe close to 10 years ago now, thinking, well, I think at some point the youngsters are going to get wind of this. Meaning the kids who play today, they want to, if you're playing music, you want to make it on your own music. And I don't blame you. You don't want to be, as a 20-year-old, you don't want to be playing in a cover band. So I suspected that kids would get onto the scene, meaning, hey, this is a way to play music, play at amazing venues, and you can really tour the world, just as Van Halen has, right? We've played in Europe, and we've played in Japan, and we're going to Australia next year. We just play all over the world. And it's a great opportunity to be able to do that. So I suspected that youngsters will get wind of it and want to participate. And if you ask yourself, what would you rather see? A Beatles tribute band made up of a bunch of 50 and 60-year-olds, or a Beatles band made up of 25-year-olds? I would pick the 25-year-olds all day long if they could pull it off, which there are some that can do that. So there is a Van Halen tribute band of youngsters based out of Ohio, and they do an amazing job. They've done their homework, and I'm really, I applaud them. They look great. They sound great. And I think that's kind of the next wave, is kids are going to gravitate towards it, realize that you can make a good income and you can travel the world and play the best venues. And then, as I said, it's only going to get more and more popular as the real rock people, the rock stars and musicians, pass away. So I think there's a lot of tailwind behind the tribute scene, and it'll continue to grow.
So you were mentioning that you've been doing Van Halen for the last 20 years or so?
It's been 20 years. This year is 20 years since I've been in a Van Halen tribute band. It's been 20 years. It's been named a couple of different things at the beginning, but Van Halen at least a decade, or well over a decade. Yeah.
Well, I would be... No, that's okay. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about when I was watching the show that that Van Halen performed in Laguna Niguel.
Yeah, And by the way, I love our name being Van Halen because people, I couldn't tell if you said Van Halen or Fan Halen just now. I'm like, well, I had to kind of literally listen. But that's the whole idea. Go ahead.
It's okay. The you know, that show, that performance, just nailed the first 4 Van Halen albums per capita, and note for note, tone, persona. When I was listening to the whole entire set, and I was focused on Ernie's vocals,
Yeah.
it took me back to the Starwood. It took me back to the Van Halen Museum with Doug Anderson. It took me back even further than that, and I thought to myself, I was just entranced. I was just entranced by the performance and by the overall tone and the talent that it takes to be able to do what Van Halen does and does so well. And
well, let me just thank you for that because that is our of course our favorite compliment when somebody comes up to us and says, "You just took me back to when I was 17. I was in the parking lot, or I went to go see Van Halen for the first time." That is the ultimate compliment, because that is really our whole mission, is to make you feel that, get those feelings that when you were a teenager and